Good morning, everybody. It's morning where I am. I don't know when you'll be watching this, but it's certainly morning here, and it's a lovely morning. It's the start of the week, and I get to share a moment with my lovely friend John O'Hara. Before I do so, I just wanted to say a welcome to everyone and acknowledge whatever country you happen to be beaming in, watching this on. I am recording this on the lands of the Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri people of the Eastern Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past, present, emerging. Acknowledge always that for many years people sang their songs, danced their dances, told their stories on this earth, and I'm very lucky to continue doing so. And sovereignty was never ceded. It always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And I know that wherever you are around Australia, if you take a moment just to remember as well, not only because of the requirement and the political nature of that, but it always just grounds me and allows me to be more present in some way as well. So, talking about being more present, here's my present of the week. This is wonderful. John O'Hara. Hello, my friend.
Hello, hello. It's nice to see you.
You too. I've seen you, but only from afar. I saw you from the audience of Tommy a couple of weeks ago. We were just talking about that before we pressed record and how fantastic you were in that show. You never stop, John. Like even you I think it's you and Lucy Maunda that even the pandemic didn't stop you. Like you just kept going. I look at your bio of all the things you've done. There's so many shows. What is the secret to that? What is the secret to always being in work?
Do you know, it's people say that now because I've been doing it for so long. This year is my 21st year since I graduated uni, Whopper, where we both went. Um, and I honestly think that there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of hard work involved. There's obviously some talent involved, but the reason I think I've kept going for so long is because I still honestly and simply just love it. I love it. I always did love it. It's all I ever wanted to do, particularly the art form of music theatre. I'm so lucky that I found it so early, and I just knew that that was what I was going to do, and I needed to find a way to get from the audience to the stage. And yeah, so that's why I think I keep going because I still love it. I mean, it hurts a little more than it used to. I'm a little more tired than I used to be, but I still love it.
And when you say when you always knew, was there a moment? Was there something that happened, or were you in a show, or like was there something that made you go, I reckon this is a great way to live my life?
There absolutely is, and I will tell you about it. I grew up in Perth, so big shows didn't often come to Perth. But in 1992, I think it might have been 93, and I would have been 12 or 13. I went to see Jesus Christ Superstar, the Arena Spectacular at the old, now bulldozed down Perth Entertainment Centre. Johnny Farnham, Kate Sobrano, John Stevens. And I went with my auntie and my cousin. And we sat in this kind of little crook of the stage because it was in the round, and it began, dunk, 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 dunk. And I remember these people walking out, who some of them I now know, like Queenie Vanderzat and stuff, were in that cast. And I just remember, and my auntie and cousins still say to this day, there was something that came over me that I was just kind of looking up at these people, and that was it. I just knew. And I swear to God, Kate Sobrano sang a whole verse of her song at me. I've told her that since. I said, "You sang to me. You're the reason." She plays along well.
Well, I'm glad she did. I'm glad she did. It was pretty amazing. It was a pretty amazing production. But you've been in everything. You've been in your own superstar. Like you've been in like so many shows.
But that when I was in Superstar, that was a moment. That was such a full circle moment because I joined the South African cast of Superstar in Johannesburg, and then we went to South Korea. So it was just this wild time, and I played Peter, who has a lot to do with Mary Magdalene, and so I just was like, ah,
Yeah, absolutely. I always find that really interesting when you're in the shows that you watched, or like you said, you work with the people that you saw on the stage because it feels so kind of unreachable. And then when you're there, you're like, what is the trajectory? And I guess that, I mean, that's partly why things like the festival exist, is to make those connections and to assist in the trajectory and the training to get you from being at the Perth Entertainment Centre watching Kate Sobrano to being in a room where you were discussing when you saw her and whatever,
Yeah.
and being in your own superstar and all of that. But
Yeah.
you've been in so many musicals. Like I've got your bio here, and like it's Hair, Shout, Eureka, Leader of the Pack, High Society, Oklahoma, Dusty, Superstar, Rocky Horror, Cats, The Boy from Oz, Rock of Ages, Singing in the Rain, Elegies, Grease, Legally Blonde, Wicked, Company, Songs for a New World, Priscilla. Like this is crazy. This is like this. Okay, have you got a dream role? That's my one thing I wanted to ask. Have you got something still ahead that you're like, I really want to tick that one off the list?
I would love to. I mean, my dream role was to play Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror, and I got to do it. But I would love to play. I would love to play Trunch in Matilda. I'd love to play Hedwig. Um, but I really do feel that I've been so fortunate that every time I get a job and and work on a new piece, it just feels like a bonus. I know that sounds naff, but even doing something as kind of obscure as Tommy for Vic Opera just recently, it was such a such an incredible experience, and I wanted to work on the piece because it's a it's an iconic 70s rock opera. I'd never been in a show that was completely sung through from go to woe, and I'd never worked for an opera company, and so that's how I try to pick, because it feels like I have been so fortunate, to be in Wicked. I dreamt of being in Wicked, and then it happened, and so I think anything that happens beyond the age of 40 is just a bonus.
It's all a plus. It's all a
Yeah.
plus. Tell me about Rocky Horror. So obviously you played Frankenfurter in Hobart, but
Yeah.
you've been in a production of Rocky Horror before, I think, had you? Like,
Yeah, I'd done the Gail Edwards production back in 2008, with Iota in the lead role, and that was a star-studded cast. Sharon Millerchip, Tamsin Carroll, Michael Cormick, Paul Capsis. I mean, just the list goes on. And then we had guest narrators: John Waters, Gretel Colleen, Hamish and Andy, Darren Hinch. Like it was a who's who of musical theatre, and media and stuff. So to come back to it, I covered Riff Raff and Frankenfurter in that production, um, and and then to come back to it almost 15 years later, um, was really special. As happens, the brief came out. They were looking for a Frankenfurter. My agent called. I said, I don't believe they're looking for a Frankenfurter. They'll get some famous person. But John X Presents were adamant that they were going to hire an Australian actor, and they were going to sell the show on its name and not on the stars. And the audition process began, and I did everything via video. It was all still pre-pandemic, but because I was doing School of Rock in Sydney, I could never get down to Tasmania, so I was auditioning on video, and then that went on for a while, and then I knew a tape was sent to London, because on Rocky Horror, Richard O'Brien and the team have to sign off on the Franks, and my agent said, the tape's gone, and we'll hear in a couple of days. And I was like, and then yeah, I got the call. I won't say what I said to her, but I swore.
yeah, fair enough.
And then we just had, it was postponed a year because of the pandemic. So I thought, oh goodness, my dream came true, and then it was broken.
Yeah.
But we came back a year later, almost exactly to the month, and we did it, and it was just the most special experience because of so many reasons. But I think the group that they assembled, both mainlanders and local Tassie talent, was just beyond. The skill and the talent level was beyond. But more than that, I think it was a group of people that just clicked. We clicked straight away, and it was just special. We were devastated when it finished.
Yeah, you could kind of feel that. Like you could just feel it in social media. You could feel it in the energy of the company, I guess. And it wasn't just we get to do a show when so many people weren't able to do a show. There was something that really genuinely felt connected, and those great music theatre experiences, they don't always happen, but that becomes bigger than the show somehow, and it really feels.
Yeah,
I
and
wish
there's something
I bought the
about
ticket.
that.
I couldn't
There's
get
something.
to it. I had a ticket, but I couldn't get to it because I got
Oh,
locked down. But
I
anyway,
know. So that was the one thing that was disappointing in it is that so many people, friends and colleagues, just couldn't come down and see any of us. But also that I think our friends and colleagues from the mainland didn't get to see the local Tassie talent on display, not just on stage. You know, we had, the man Anthony Phillips, who's world famous. Like he made Nicole Kidman's corsets on Moulin Rouge. He made all my corsets, and Roz Wren was the other costume designer, and our set designers, our lighting designers, sound designers. It was just this who's who of Tassie local talent, and then I just don't think Hobart was ready for what they saw because we kept extending and the show sold out. The last 2 weeks there were wait lists, and it just penetrated the community in Hobart, and I think it spoke to live entertainment, but also all of the older people who love and know Rocky Horror, but then this younger generation of people that were like, what is this sexy show that we can kind of get lost in. A lot of queer people came, and I don't think they have felt so seen down there in a long time, so it was just beautiful. The Theatre Royal, as you know, has a gorgeous bar and stuff. And I mean, we spent every night in the bar after the show. And one of my favorite things was that people just wanted to kind of talk to us and say thank you and why they loved the show and who their favorite character was. And, it was really special.
And John, I am not just like you've said about five things there that I'm like, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I want to just go and obviously we're here to talk about the festival, but the thing you're talking about is familiar to me, even though I wasn't there. The thing about community in theatre, like the access to go to the bar and go, what is that? Who are you? And let's talk. That's one of the things I love about the festival is that there's a string of events, that there's a festival bar, that you engage with people and on every level, like from people who are just starting out to people who have been on Broadway. Many of the people you talked about, Anthony Phillips did a costume design class last year, Dion Zanotto, who was in production. And the thing about also the people finding out who the local talent are and seeing them with all of these people who are acclaimed all over the world and going, oh, we're just as good. Like there's a really wonderful thing that happens there where it becomes about the work, it becomes about community, and it's not about where do I fit next to that person. And that feels particularly of the festival and of Tasmania. So I'm so pleased that you talked about that because I also think it's part of Songs for New World, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about. One of the things you're going to do for us, which is fantastic. You've been in a production of this before.
Yeah, I have. I did the 2016 production with Josh Robson's company, now playing Phantom on the Harbour. And we had Tegan Wooters, Lyndon, I can't remember Lyndon's last name, and Natalie O'Donnell. And it was incredible at Chapel Off Chapel. I mean, such a difficult piece to tackle as a singer and an actor. We were led gorgeously by Luke Joslin and Jeff Castles. But yeah, I love the piece. I love the music. I think if you're a young'un growing up and you fall in love with musical theatre, you kind of come across Jason Robert Brown, and there's songs within Songs for a New World that everyone loves. King of the World, Stars in the Moon, I'm Not Afraid.
Yeah. I love that the first one you said is the song you're singing. Songs that you love. The one that I get to sing. Because in this version, and people may
I lobbied for it. I lobbied for
just talking before, we were talking before about how you have to sing so high at the moment, and then you wanted to sing King of the World. I mean, it's like in the gods.
Yeah.
People may not realize that the show itself, obviously, as you said, written by Jason Robert Brown, is a series of songs put together to talk about kind of a significant moment of change. It's originally put together with 4 people. We're doing it with like 24 people. Jason Robert Brown has given us exclusive permission to do that so that we capture all of the community across, Launceston and Lutruwita and in the mainland everywhere. And so it'll be another wonderful moment to kind of, it's going to be crazy because I mean, John, you're in it and you barely know how it's going to work, but we're doing a musical, we're putting it together in a day, which is
Sure.
which is madness, absolute madness. But the nature of the musical is that everybody can sing their individual songs, and people from Chloe Dallimore and Paulini, yourself, Jennifer Pierce, great performers, and these incredible local performers like Sam Hammersley and Nicole Farrow, and I'm trying to think.
Samantha James Rutherford's doing it, isn't she?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
and Maria Larigi and Prophecy and Angel, and like they're just there's so many fantastic. Like it feels like the best of the best coming together for this show. We're so excited that you're going to be part of it. And now, can I ask you a little bit about the late night event on the Friday night at the Earl
Yeah.
Arts Centre, which is called Here's to the Ladies.
That's for the
What
ladies.
do we expect there?
Well, it's a little bit, it's a bit more of a relaxed event. You know, I think Songs for a New World is going to be in the big space, and we are going to rehearse it for a day. Whereas I think Here's to the Ladies, we're not going to rehearse it at all. You know.
A day
um,
feels like a luxury, doesn't it?
yeah, we're going to pay homage to, women in music theatre because, there are some wonderful female leading ladies of the theatre, and it's such an institution. Like leading ladies is such a kind of institution of the music theatre as a genre, but also there are incredible female characters within the canon of music theatre from way back right up to now. So there are going to be some well-known names that you will recognize from the festival performing songs, but it's also an event that people that want to rock up with music can and just have a sing. The only rule is you have to somehow pay homage to the ladies of music theatre, and I mean that's loose. If you have an argument with me as to why your song does pay homage to the ladies of music theatre, if you're going to sing "If I Were a Rich Man" and you can justify it, I'll let you sing it.
You could sing it as Liza Minnelli. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
it's that thing that you talk about. It's that the energy of that inclusivity that if you can get up and sing, and we had a similar event last year that was really extraordinary because people who weren't necessarily even the greatest of singers but had some affinity to a song, and you go, oh, that just made it come alive. And if you think about the leading ladies, I mean, it's, and from Ethel Merman to Patti LuPone to Angela Lansbury and Liza and Judy Garland, like there's so much material, and it's really wonderful that you're going to host that and throw a song in there. I hope. With
Oh yes, try and
Thinking
stop
about
me.
on the flyer, on the poster for it, there's a fantastic picture of you. Where did that picture come from? What is that?
Oh, that's from when I did Priscilla. So I played Bernadette back a few years ago. Another crazy, phone call from your agent. Hey, they're doing Priscilla on a cruise ship out of Florida, and it's going to go through the Mediterranean, stopping in Italy, France, and Spain for 8 months. Do you want to go and audition? And I was like, what do you mean? This cannot be true. But Dean Bryant and Andrew Holsworth and Spud Murphy and the team all the success of Priscilla as a film is one thing, but then the success of it as a musical is this whole other thing. And not just here in Australia, obviously, but it was successful on the West End and successful on Broadway. And then they have these massive cruise ships in America that I didn't understand until I'd been on one, which is literally a floating city. And they staged Priscilla on a ship called the Norwegian Epic with all the bells and whistles, a big bus that revolved and three women that flew in over the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And on paper, I kind of thought, how is this going to translate to largely American audiences and European audiences? But what I realized in doing that contract was that Priscilla, our little story, Priscilla, our Aussie story, Priscilla, means so much to so many people all over the world. Because I think, obviously it's dated now as a piece, but I think at its very simple kind of fundamental heart, it tells the story of three very different queer people, and people see themselves or kind of can relate to those three characters in different ways. And as beautiful and as special as it was, and a privilege to play a character like Bernadette, um, what was incredible, the same thing as Rocky Horror, was that on the cruise ship, so many people just wanted to say, "I love Priscilla. I'm from this country, and I love Priscilla because of this," or "I'm from this country, and I never understood my gay child until I saw this musical or this film, and now I kind of see them," and thank you, or it was a very special time, a very debaucherous time, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I would expect nothing less. But it's interesting because we're so used to working the other way around, where we get productions from America or London, and as Australian artists, we kind of step in and kind of do a version of what was done already. Um, to do an Australian musical, they're not even in that incredible list of all the things that I went through with that you've done. You've been in a few, but they're still only sort of every now and again. Why do you think, one of the things that we have at the festival is we did it last year, we'll do it again this year. We do a celebration of Australian musical theatre, celebrating new writers and also acknowledging so many of the writers that people maybe don't know. Why do you think it's important to look at Australian musicals?
Because we have stories to tell. You kind of said that at the very beginning of this chat. You pay respect to the land, that stories have been told by people on this land from way before when we were here. And so, and they continue to be by lots of different people in this incredible melting pot that we live in Australia, that have all of these cultural influences. I think that Australia is a really interesting place to tell stories from, and that's one of the wonderful things about Priscilla, is talking in our own accent. As an actor in musical theatre, you have to be able to do an American accent, you have to be able to do an English accent, or you just won't work. But to be in a company where you get to express yourself as an Australian in your own dialect while everyone else is having Australian accent lessons and you get the afternoon off, is just such a treat, because we have really important, fun, silly, poignant stories to tell. It doesn't have to be about. I think sometimes the mistake is made, like, we have to tell us an Australian story about Australian history. Like, it doesn't have to be that big. It can just be an Australian love story, or an Australian story about three friends driving on a bus through the desert. It just happens to be set in Australia, but they do happen here. And we also have the most incredible writers and directors and choreographers and dramaturgs and all of that. And we're starting to see it with that success of people like Tim Minchin and Eddie Perfect on a big global scale. But there's so much more that we can do. And as you say, Tassie has so much talent, and so many people that can do as much as anyone can do in this country. And it's incredible that this festival's happening there, because let's tell a Tassie story. I think it's
Yeah,
incredible.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you're aware that we're doing Launceston the musical this year. It is
There
hilarious. It's so ridiculous. It was written by this extraordinary guy called Derek Rowe. And
Yeah.
last year, I don't know if I told you this story, but basically he had a copy of the Examiner put under his door. He was in Launceston for the festival. He had a copy of the Examiner put under his door. He had, in the morning, he would read through the paper, he would find an article, and in the afternoon, he would write a song to go with that article. And so it's like this little time capsule of what the last festival was. And he presented it largely by himself, singing and talking about, and doing. And it was so great that we went, we have to do that. It is literally the stories of Launceston. And people in the audience thought it was hilarious, because they're like, oh my God, when he talks about Sue from the Bank, I know her.
Well,
Like, literally have people in the musical. Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's going
Sue
to be.
from the Bank is probably a great character. If you want to get their hands on Sue from the Bank.
You'll meet her and many more. John O'Hara, thank you so much. In our own lives, you and I have kind of always circled around and tried
I
to find the
know.
ways that we were going to be in the same room, and it's just even in the remoteness of watching you on stage for so long, but always getting a sense of who you are in the industry. It's and just the way people talk about you, the way you are revered not just for your talent, but who you are and how you make the industry nicer. I love that, and I'm so happy that you're coming to the festival across a whole range of songs, performances, and contributing songs. And thank you, and we can't wait to see you down there in May.
Me neither. Cannot wait. I'll see you all there.
Too many days in the darkness without a glimpse of the light. Running tired and broken and scared, but I swear I'll never give up the fight. I see you broken and beat, head pulled down over your eyes. Every part of you wants to surrender, but darling, you were meant to survive. With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head. With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head. Just like a seed in a garden, you will grow to be tall, staring out over miles of land without it, but wanting to build up walls. Lift me up in your breath.